Customs.
To help us deal with your query, we will ask for your national insurance number, so please have this ready. Your national insurance number on your payslip, or your P60 from your employer, or on a letter from HM Revenue and Customs.
To direct your call to the right place, I'd like to know why you're calling today. So tell me, in a few words, what's the reason for your call?
Customer service.
We've lots of specialist advisors to help if you can tell me a little more about your reason for calling today. You can say things like, it's to claim a tax refund, I received a VAT penalty notice, or even, I've just had a baby. So go ahead, in a few words, what's the reason for your call?
Personal tax account.
It's about your online personal tax account. Is that right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Please say one of the following: pensioners, tax codes, refunds, tax calculations, self-assessment, deceased, or something else.
Something else.
And are you calling about your own tax?
Yes.
Thank you. Just so you know, you can find lots of information about income tax on our website, gov.uk/income tax. If you still need to speak to an advisor, it would be useful if you have all the information about your inquiry in front of you so we can help you. If you don't have that information, please find it and call us back. Now, if you would still like to speak to one of our advisors, please hold on a moment and I'll transfer you. By the way, for quality and security, this call might be recorded. In order to improve our services, it would be really helpful if you could answer 4 short questions about your experience of calling Hmrc today. This should take less than 1 minute of your time. Please press 1 if you would like to take part, or 2 to opt out.
Opt out.
Good morning, my name is Lenny. Would I be able to take your national insurance number, please?
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Sorry, what was your name, bud?
My name is Lenny.
Lenny. Hi, Lenny. It's an unusual name, mate. Can I just take a note of how I spell that, bud, so I've got a record of who I'm speaking to? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So it's Lenny.
So is that L for Lima? And
L for Lima, yeah.
And then E for Echo, and then that's N for November.
Yeah, so L for Lima, E for Echo, November, Y for Yankee.
Okay, wicked. And what do you do for HMRC, mate?
I am sort of PT Ops. I deal with personal taxes, income tax.
Okay, what's your job title, bud? Just so I've got a record.
Administrative Officer.
Say again, mate?
Administrative Officer.
Wicked. Okay. And is Lenny an abbreviation of your short name? Do you mind me asking?
Yes, it is, but this is sort of what my name goes by in sort of in the role. So everyone would know me by Lenny as opposed to my full name.
So you wouldn't be happy to provide a surname?
Preferably not, no. But if you can take,
is that the rules? Are you allowed to do that at HMRC?
Yes, yeah, we are. Yeah, if you note down that I'm based in Cardiff, then I'm the only Lenny in Cardiff, so you'll be able to sort of reference it back to me if needed.
Okay, but with the greatest of respect to you, buddy, how do I know that?
Well, I guess in that instance, you just have to take my word on it. But I mean, I am working sort of with due diligence to be obviously as honest as possible. I'm not obviously trying to sort of deceive people here on the phone.
No, I understand that, mate. Unfortunately, I've had quite a lot of people. There's some really jammy software where what people can do is they can intercept outbound calls and pose as kind of like literally anybody. I've had some problems on Android smartphones where people have done this over the years. And one of the things they almost always do is use a name which is kind of phonetically indecipherable. So things like Olwyn, things that you can never spell unless you ask it. And they also use sort of abbreviations and nicknames. So something like Lizzie, for example, might be an abbreviation of Lisa or Eloise or Elizabeth or Eliza. for example, and if someone says their name's Lizzie, actually, you haven't even got a first name, because if you speaking to a hacker and they're using a name which is an abbreviation or a nickname, if you like, of the full name, then what you've got is somebody who's trying to remain anonymous. And of course, you get things that's not so bad with your name, but your name could have been Lemmy, Lima Echo, Mike.
I can confirm my full name is Leonard.
That's like really kind of you, mate. I appreciate that.
I go by Lenny here at the office, so people wouldn't really know me as Leonard. So.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just so that, when you're speaking to people about their Hmrc account, which is really important, sort of public service, you're working for the government, it's just really useful to have at least a first name, which, couldn't be one of 6 other things. Anyway, Leonard, I appreciate you've done that for me, mate. Let's get into the call.
Yeah, no worries. With taking your national insurance number, please.
Of course you can. It's J Juliet N November.
Okay. And the characters in the middle, the numbers in the middle?
98 13 71
1
D for Delta.
Thank you. And could you confirm your full name for me, please?
It's Brodie Nathaniel Diorsa MacLeod.
Thank you very much. Your date of birth?
28th of June, 1986.
Thank you. And your postcode, please?
Postcode at present is Bravo Sierra 4 to Papa November.
Thank you. And your previous postcode?
It's Tango Quebec 11 0 Quebec Alpha.
Thank you very much. Okay, just bear with me 2 seconds here. Okay, so just to confirm, it looks like we have your old address, sort of as your current address. Have you moved away from the address in Buckfastleigh?
I've just got another permanent address that I've moved into, but at the moment I'm waiting for confirmation of some details. So I'm actually claiming housing benefit of the property, but I'm waiting for written confirmation of my housing benefit claim to make sure that I'm going to be able to live at this property before I update my address details. So at the moment, I've just moved in and just finalising the paperwork. So not looking to change those just at the moment.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. How is it I can help you today?
So I set up an online tax account quite a while ago, back in the summer. There was a few problems when I first set up the account. I didn't really understand what was going on. I'll give you a brief run through of those because it could be relevant to say. Again, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't know. I was unsure if I had been the victim of hacking at the time. So one of the things I've had, as well as people that have compromised the integrity of the Android operating system on a couple of smartphones that I've had over the last few years, occasionally to work in line with identity fraud and theft, which unfortunately I've been the victim of. What I've also had is quite a lot of emails which have been spoofed. Now, I made a few calls to Hmrc, which people were a little bit sort of reticent about providing the details, and some of the information they gave didn't really seem up to par. So I opened up an online account on the 29th of May. It's not the day I opened it up, but that's my first email that I got from HM Revenue and Customs, supposedly. When I first opened up the account, I had to go through Post Office Verify, which I had a couple of problems with too. But I got through the Post Office Verify, managed to get my details sorted there. Tried to log in, but it didn't function. So I got an email on the 29th of May, 1546. It said, "We've received your message and your reply. We'll let you know we're dealing with this. Get back to you within 2 working days. If we ask you to provide more information, we can help you. You can reply to this message at any time, blah, blah, blah." I think that was them saying that that was kind of regards the digital customer support team. So that, I think that was me saying that I couldn't log in with Post Office Verify. So I'd completed the Post Office Verify process, and I couldn't get HMRC to register me for my personal tax account online, which is why I'm phoning up today, trying to get into my personal tax account. I got another email back on the 29th of May saying, thanks for your message. If you're shown there was a problem signing you in, your sign-in details have not been recognised by some Revenue and Customs. This means the details you provided do not verify to the Verify agency, don't match the details that HMRC holds you. So there was a discrepancy, which is what they went on to say in the thread. They said, please provide a screenshot of the following details you provided to the Verify agency. Alternatively, you can call the tax account line on their number. Please give us your name, date of birth, postcode, and self-assessment reference number you've entered, or your national insurance number you entered when redirected to the HMRC webpage. If you did not receive the above error message, to allow us to help you, please you provide a more detailed description of what you're trying to do and the problems you're experiencing. If you've not used Verify, then please use to sign in. So then it went on, won't take much longer, mate. So on the 8th of June, sort of 10 days later, I said, hello, please find enclosed a screenshot of my Post Office Verify account. It doesn't show my national insurance number. However, national insurance was used as part of the verification process, which is now not providing a successful login. And then I've sent the error message and the image of that. Got an email back on the 9th of June, the next day, with the reference, the inquiry reference, saying, thank you for your inquiry. In order for me to investigate, can you please provide your 10-digit unique tax reference number or your national insurance number associated with your online account? I apologise for the inconvenience caused. And this was signed by Keith, just first name, a bit like yourself, in the digital customer support team. And so then I provided my national insurance number on the 11th of June, and then got back to me that day saying, thanks for your message. I've assigned it to a colleague who will reply as soon as possible. Kind regards, Sarah, S-A-R-A, again, first name only, in the digital customer support team. I kind of felt I was a little bit, it did raise my suspicions slightly, not least because I've had such a liturgy of fraud in the past, but that HMRC were replying in writing, handling all my sensitive data with just a first name. Normally, if you receive like if you get a letter from HMRC and it's from somebody, then they'll put their first and second name. You know, that's kind of standard procedure. Anyway, I got another email on the 11th of June. So thanks for your reply. I'm sorry for the problems you're experiencing. We've identified a discrepancy which is preventing you from proceeding. Please be assured this has nothing to do with your data, but rather it is how our systems communicate with each other. Once a discrepancy has been rectified, you'll be notified. Unfortunately, it can take up to 8 to 10 weeks. However, I'll keep you informed. If you have any questions or you need help, you can contact the HMRC's helplines. If you're trying to access childcare, please phone the childcare services, blah, blah, blah. I apologise for inconvenience caused. And that was signed as if, which again, kind of like is what you might say if something beggars belief, but I don't want to be kind of discriminatory. So that's Alpha Sierra Indigo Foxtrot, again, just first name. So they were saying it might take me 8 to 10 weeks to log into a personal tax account because there was a discrepancy on your system. Now, if I had, you know, a massive chunky tax bill that was about to take me to court and I needed to view my personal tax account to see it, like I hadn't paid enough tax to HMRC and they were going to prosecute me, or any number of other kind of urgent issues, I think it's quite atypical. And I don't know, you know, what your professional knowledge of the system is. Based your work, I'm presuming in the department that deals with this. So
I'm not actually. I deal with sort of income tax, so I don't know sort of what number it is on that letter there, but I don't deal with the sort of the online service.
So this is an email, and when I was asking in the telephone management system, I asked for personal tax account, and it confirmed back to me, you'd like details of your personal tax account. You're working with your online tax account. Is that correct? And I said, yes. So the system is 100% sure that my inquiry today was about my online personal tax account.
Okay.
So why is it I'm speaking to somebody in the completely wrong department?
I'm not too sure. I deal with sort of income tax. I do deal with people's personal tax accounts, but not as directly as sort of you're mentioning. So the problems that sort of you're sort of suffering here are actually due to the sort of the online technical aspect, whereas in reality I would sort of be I deal with the sort of side of things where, you know, if your tax code is sort of affecting your wage or something like that. So I deal with sort of more the actual money, financial aspects of a personal tax account. I don't actually deal with the sort of the technical side of things. So I can sort of give you sort of the number for that department if you'd like to if you would like to ring them directly. I can only apologize that you come through to me if, you know, because of the nature of your query. I can sort of, the limited scope of availability that I have is I can sort of reset your password on your personal tax account, but that doesn't seem like it's going to sort of solve your problem. So I think the next best step is to sort of give you the right number for the department that deals with that technical aspect.
So you do have, so the personal, I've already phoned the right number. Hmrc knows the right number, and the number I've phoned perfectly has the identifier to say to customers that are phoning Hmrc that they'd like to deal with their online personal tax account, which is exactly what my inquiry refers to. So there is no better possible permeation of numbers that I could call other than the numbers that I have called. And the recorded message has told me that I'm going to be dealing with, I've been put through to a department specifically to deal with my online personal tax account. So there is no one else that I can call. I phoned the right person. I've had this problem before where what happens is people come through and they use a name which could refer to any name. Like I said, a little bit like Lizzie. There's no aspersions against you. You could be 100% genuine, trying to work hard. Some weirdo on the phone who's had some problem with Lawnmower Man. But what I'm saying to you is that there isn't anybody else. I've already phoned the right number, mate, and I've already given the right information. The right number to phone is the one where it says, would you like to help? Would you like to have help with your online personal tax account? That's exactly what it said. And then it put me through to what should have been somebody who can help me in that department, not somebody who says they can only do password reset requests. So it does have access to online personal tax account requests, but can't do anything else. I think it might be useful maybe if I explain the rest of the inquiry.
I can do, but I mean, what I would suggest if you're...
I've already phoned them, bud. I mean, there isn't another number. I'm on the phone to the person to the right department.
Well, I'm trying to tell you that you're not, basically, because this is the income tax side of things.
Tell you what, so have you got a team leader or a manager that I can speak to, bud? Because I mean, that'd be really useful.
Yeah, if there's no one available, would you like me to sort of arrange a call back?
Are you preempting that there's going to be no one available, or I'd really like it if there was someone available? I'm going to go and look for you. I just want to sort of manage the expectations. If no one is available, then what do you want to do sort of going forward? Because personally, if I can offer sort of my 2 cents just to see if it's an acceptable solution, I've just sort of put the number that I was going to give you. I've just put it into Google and it comes back saying technical support with Hmrc online services. That's the number that I was going to give you, which is the correct number that you need to be calling. But obviously, if you're not do you know what? I might have phoned them before. What is it? 03300.
So it's 0300 200 3600.
0300. Say again.
So it's 0300 200 3600.
Yeah, I have phoned them before. Technical support with online services.
Yeah. So what I'll do anyway.
Can you not put me through to them?
Let me see if I can. I think it's sort of dealt with as if it's sort of it's a technical team that doesn't actually sort of deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that it would all be spiderwebbed. I mean, you're all part of the same organisation. You're just different departmental contacts dealing with different issues.
Yeah, the majority of us are. Let me have a look here. Yeah, so it looks like the online service steps is an external sort of transfer, and it might be that it's not sort of connected via sort of our systems. I'm not too sure, if I'm perfectly honest. A lot of our departments are actually connected. I'm not too sure why the online service help desk isn't. But like, do
you know what? I don't think there's anything. I mean, this is kind of like if the website's broken. I don't really think it's a technical support inquiry. So, to cut a long story short, they said it was going to take 8 to 10 weeks because of a discrepancy. They didn't reference this or give me any kind of liability cover. So if I was about to get taken to court, you know, and I needed to access the online personal tax account details for some really urgent reason, or my business about, you know, there's probably 5 or 10 really important reasons. They didn't say, just said it was going to take 2 months. I mean, 2 months is a long time, you know, I said thanks and asked if they could get back to me before 8 weeks. And then I got another email, the 14th of June, said thanks for contacting, might be sooner, etc., etc. But once we know, we'll get in touch. That was from, again, Rebecca, first name only. I asked exactly if they can tell me exactly what's causing the problem. Thought my details were correct. I'd really like to know who's provided false or incorrect information, when, to what effect, in order to protect my data security, blah, blah, blah. They got back to me again. They explained a little bit more, and they said that the discrepancy relates to our systems not matching fully. It's not that your details are held incorrectly, but the discrepancy is currently preventing you from accessing the online services. As previously advised, once the discrepancy has been rectified, you'll be notified. And that was again from Rebecca. So I emailed again on the 22nd of June and just again asked for an update if they know anything, if they know what's wrong with my postal tax account. Have they found out the answer yet? And they got back to me and they said our previous responses are all the information, bit of a typo in there, we can currently provide. There's no update yet. As previously advised, it can take between 8 to 10 weeks for the discrepancy to be rectified. We'll be in touch once we have an update, and that was from Rebecca. So I say, could you please confirm the start date for the commencement of my inquiry related to Hmrc having mismanaged handling of my personal, financial and legal information? Could you also please confirm consequently the date after which Hmrc would deem itself to have exceeded, exhausted or breached its own regulatory and contractual time period, which you've alleged to constitute 2 months, where I can reference this contractual or regulatory mechanism? What action, should the issue not be satisfactorily resolved during this time frame, I'm entitled to pursue after this point? If you could provide a full name and title of employment at Her Majesty's Office, Revenue and Customs within the response, it'd be much appreciated. Regards, Brodie. They got back to me and said the discrepancy had been rectified on the 7th of July. Please can I ask that you clear the cookies and caches on your device, try again to access the account. However, please allow 24 to 48 hours to pass before trying again. We apologise for any inconvenience. And that was from As If. I don't know if this is, any of this is, it would seem that they're acting anonymously in writing from Hmrc, which is kind of unusual. And they're deeming that there's some unknown discrepancy on my account, which is going to take them 2 months to fix. And they haven't given me any sort of like watertight method. I mean, if you can't access details, I mean, I guess they might argue that you could do it in some other ways. But again, it's something which could potentially leave somebody in hot water. And you would think that if it was going to take them 2 months to fix a broken computer that they can't explain, then they would probably give a bit of information about that. Anyway, now they've said it works. And the problem I'm having is that when I try to sign in, I put in my government gateway and my password, and it goes through and it asks me for like my name and my date of birth, my national insurance number, and then after that, it says it's going to identify myself, and the options are using things that I don't have. So and things which aren't logged on the account either. So when you get to the next page, it says you need a UK passport, a valid UK passport. So my passport is expired. It says you need credit questions, which I'm happy to complete. I can do that bit. And then it's got a driving license from a country that I've never visited. Now my so I didn't use. I think I might have used my UK passport with Post Office verified, but I don't think I did. So I mean, like I think I did scan it. I think the one I used, it's got like an NFC chip in my passport. It's one of the older ones that's got a plastic near-field communication chip, sort of what it is, in the back. I use that. I think I use that, but I'm pretty sure what I think the main bit of ID on my post office verifier is my driving license, and then what I'm saying is I don't think this is a technical problem. I don't think that the website's broken or there's a bug in it or it's kind of in a loop. This is a straightforward administration problem. If you can deal with my login details, this is a logging in problem. So although I've provided my login details,
what it sounds like, what it's from perception, like I said, I don't work in that department, but I can sort of try and connect the dots. What it sounds like is there was obviously, like you were saying, some sort of discrepancy on the system, and it looks like they've corrected that. But in doing so, it basically is sort of reverted to you having to verify your identity once more. So that's either via what you were just saying about, the passport and credit agency checks or whatever.
I don't think it's reverted to me having to verify my identity. I think it's probably pretty standard the first time you log in that you have to verify your identity. One of the other things it did, so there's not really any reason for it to then ask me to provide a foreign national driving license, or like a driving license for another nation. It would only do if it thinks that there's one detail within the particulars of the account, and like the logic of what you just said, it doesn't necessarily stand up. So I mean,
I'm simply just trying to sort of offer what
an explanation based on based on what you think maybe it might be appreciated. I'm not guaranteeing that to be correct. So,
I mean, my honest advice, my honest best suggestion would be to ring that number that I've spoken to. I know you said it's an administrative sort of issue, and not a technical issue, but the people who sort of deal with the online service help desk deal with sort of every aspect. From my understanding of how the online service help desk works is that in that first instance, when you do sort of need to verify your identity, you can either sort of do it via that online system by sort of uploading documents, or you can do it the postal verify. If neither of which options are sort of acceptable or available, then the personal tax account system sort of unfortunately just isn't available to whatever certain situation it is. So, for example, someone, let's say, who's not from the UK and doesn't have a UK passport, or may not yet have sort of enough information present, would sort of have to wait or get that information before they'd be able to apply for the personal tax account. But sort of extending past that scope, I don't really know any more technical expertise that I could really offer you. So I'm sorry I can't sort of give you any more answers. But like I said, it's not the department that I deal with, so I can only sort of offer you as much information as I know.
I'm just wondering if when I said online personal tax account, what they should have done is put me through to technical support with Hmrc online services, and not, which department did you say you worked in again?
Income tax, pay as you earn.
So just general PAYE inquiries. So you're not anything to do with online personal tax accounts?
No, nothing at all. No, I'm income tax, literally, not anything to do with the online service.
So if the detail says online personal tax accounts, and I've said yes, would you not think it would be appropriate for it to put me through to somebody who is able to discuss problems with accessing your online personal tax account, rather than yourself, who's not able to do that? Would you agree that, I would? This is kind of what I'm. Well, I mean, I'm not looking to make a complaint about your system. What I'm sort of erring on the side is that more likely somebody isn't too stupid to build a system which processes literally billions of pounds on behalf of British citizens every year, and takes probably hundreds of thousands of telephone calls over the course of 12 months. I don't reckon they're too stupid to build a system that works, and that every single person who says, yes, I've got a problem with my online personal tax account, gets put through to Hmrc PAYE services, who are unable to help. I don't reckon that happens, 47,500 times a year when people phone up and ask about it. I reckon when they phone up and ask to speak to a department, put them through to the one that's helpful. Otherwise, everyone would be doing this, Lenny. If you could think about it in that, from that perspective, I'm unsure, although I appreciate you've given me the number. I'm unsure that 47,500 people, for example, are doing this every single time, and that nobody at Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, one of the most kind of contacted and sort of financially lucrative organisations. I mean, they deal with a lot of money, mate, and they get a lot of phone calls, and I don't think this is happening, you know, twice an hour. So that's why I wanted to ask. I appreciate, you know, you're trying to do your job, mate. What I'm asking is that maybe I can speak to your line manager and just confirm whether that's the case, because I think that if I've selected and it's understood online, I'm going to be dealing with online, specifically online personal tax account, sending me through to a PAYE advisor who's just going to tell me how much I declared last year and what, you know, how much my boss has put in for my tax last month on paper or in your system isn't really efficient. And it kind of beggars belief for me. It beggars belief that I could ask to speak to that department and not get put through to them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, if you just bear with me a couple of minutes, I'll just pop you on a quick hold. I'll see if I can.
What's the name? Could you mind me asking the name of your line manager? Is that all right?
Yeah, my line manager's name is Terence, but he's not in today. So I'm just basically there's sort of like a pool of managers who are available. And
so how does it work? Have you got like a team leader for your sort of 10 or 15 people, or? Yes,
yeah, but like I said, my team leader's not in today. So there are a pool of different managers based in our building. Like I said, I'm based in Cardiff, so there's a few different managers who sort of all work to manage the telephony services, and they'll be sort of allocated sort of different slots in which they're expected or able to take calls. But it is, like I said, I'm not too sure who that is.
So you're saying that your team leader happens to be on holiday and they haven't provided a replacement?
There is a replacement there. I just don't know who it is at the moment because I need to go and check and see if anyone is available to take a call.
Yeah.
Right now.
You've said several times, preempting that it's likely that you might not be it's potential that you might not be available. But what I'm saying is that your manager's on holiday, and you're saying that you don't know who's replaced it. I mean, I would have thought when you got in, 8 o'clock this morning, they said, "Hello, my name's Tom. I'm your manager. Terence is away." For example, and you're saying you literally don't know, you don't know who this person is, as well as not knowing if they're going to be able to speak to me.
Not that I don't know specifically who the person is. There are about 10 to 15 managers who work in my building, and
your team leader though. So your team leader normally that manages you, or your line manager. I mean, I would imagine you have a team leader if you're working in a contact center. I would imagine that, you know, even if it's 20 people, probably there would be somebody who manages the calls directly and normally intercepts and intervenes when there is, you know, one of the things they do is they have to quite frequently take calls which are escalated where people haven't got the sufficient knowledge to answer questions, or they've got compliance issues, and normally that's when the team leader's there, so they can quickly take calls. That's normally what they'll do in a contact center. When you've got 20 people or 40 people, they'll have somebody directly managing and overseeing specifically problems that are going on with those people, and then you'll have, like, you know, an office manager and you know, a whole bunch of other staff. There probably is about 15 managers in your building, but you said, you know, there's a guy called Terence, and Terence normally is there to manage, is your manager, right? So if you've got a problem, he's the guy that you'll normally go to, but he's on holiday. It just so happens, and nobody's told you, hello, you know, like I said, I'm Tom and I'm your manager for today. So you don't actually know who it is. You haven't been, it just so happens this guy's gone on holiday, and also they've deviated from normal professional conduct and decided to remain anonymous and or ensconced in the building somewhere, so that you don't know who your manager is, you don't know where they are, and you're nice enough to let me know that it's likely that they're not going to speak to me. But I'm just trying to get all those three facts in correlation. So you don't know who today, for your shift today, you don't know who your line manager is or your team leader. You haven't been given a name of that person yet.
Well, like I said, so my team leader, like I said, is Terence, but unfortunately he's not in today. So, but it's not necessarily sort of when I have an escalation, it goes directly to them. That it's because we sort of have equal sort of team leaders throughout the building. Sort of different days, different team leaders will be assigned. sort of, escalation duties when they need to speak to
Yeah, different people work different shifts. How long has Terence been on holiday for, mate?
I'm not too sure because I sort of work Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. He's not in today. I believe he was in on Friday, but I wasn't working on Friday, so I'm not too sure. But I believe he hasn't been gone sort of for an extended period of time. It would either be, a couple of days.
And you don't know, okay, or just today, yeah. And you don't know who else to ask, but you're going to go and find out.
Well, I do know who else to ask. I need to go and see if they're available right now. But I wouldn't.
So who are you going to ask, mate?
Well, that's who I need to go and try and find out now. But I would need to pop you on hold whilst I try and find out who sort of the deputy managers are sort of at the moment whilst Terence is not available.
Could you tell me the name of the person you're going to go and refer my inquiry to?
I need to go and have to look. I need to go and have a look and see sort of who I'm sort of going to be trying to contact. I don't know at this present moment. I'd have to go and verify. So I'll be able to go and try and ask, and then I'll be able to come back to you.
So there isn't anybody assigned. There isn't anybody assigned to take escalated inquiries from your desk at the moment, or from the desk of everyone else that works on PAYE services. There's nobody on the floor which is there dedicated to your team of PAYE employees.
Yeah, so I mean we're not sort of in the office because of COVID regulations. So I would have to go and sort of check sort of in the system, in the technical system, who's sort of I'm supposed to be contacting and trying to get them in contact.
Of course, you don't. I mean, yeah, you haven't got a physical office floor. You're likely working from home.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, mate. So if you could go and refer, so you don't. You're going to have to just look through a directory and see if there's anybody else that could be your manager.
Yeah, I mean, it's not could be my manager. There is someone sort of in place.
Could act as your manager today because you don't know where your normal one is.
Yeah. So at present, I mean, I haven't sort of had to do an escalation or anything today, so I haven't looked to see who I need to sort of escalate to. I generally try not to escalate because I can handle most calls, but obviously in this instance, you would like to speak to a manager, so I need to firstly go and see who is supposed to be sort of taking up that role and that duty today, and then sort of contacting them, seeing if they're available, and if not, then we can sort of go and discuss the next steps there. But ideally, like I said, in an ideal sense, they'll be able to speak to you directly now. But could you
ask them, explain that I've got a piece of random kind of documentation that doesn't relate to my account that's requesting at the login stage, and also ask them why it is that when I ask to speak to somebody to deal with my online personal tax account, I've been put through to PAYE. Could you so there's two inquiries, like my inquiry about logging in, and also kind of why it is I'm speaking to you rather than the technical support team, or I guess they might argue that the majority of inquiries probably will relate to details of PAYE, which is what your online personal tax account typically deals details with, but actually maybe not so much. I mean, online personal tax accounts might be used. I'm not sure. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but they could be used by somebody who's self-employed, or is that correct? Could they be used? I mean, you're working in PAYE, but I asked specifically for help with online personal tax accounts, which I don't think necessarily is isolated to PAYE. So people with you might have your personal taxes. You might declare your personal taxes and not pay them via PAYE, which is kind of makes me having been put through to your department even more wrong. Is that so? You just deal with PAYE inquiries, is that right?
Yeah, I just deal with sort of income tax and PAYE inquiries. Yeah.
Well, income tax you can pay voluntarily, or you can pay via PAYE. So income tax is everyone pays income tax, whether you're a business owner or you're self-employed.
Yeah. So I work for in the income tax department, but specifically for pay as you earn. Yeah. PAYE.
Income tax, underscored PAYE. Okay, so if you could just explain to him that on the telephone management system, I've asked definitely to speak with online personal tax accounts. And I've been put through to somebody else. And I mean, I don't want to kind of labour the point, but like I said, it's just really random. You've probably never come across it before. But one of the things that people always do, like I said, if someone going by the name of Lizzie, could be like 5 different names, and they always do stuff like that to try and make their bogus impersonation of whoever it is I'm calling sound more legitimate. And because I've been put through to somebody that isn't going to be able to help with my online personal tax account, and as you said, has gone by a name. Do you mind me just expanding a tiny bit for me, just to reassure me, who's hopefully being just a little bit too careful? What's the deal with your second name? So if you work for Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, and you're going to take like all somebody's personal details and then discuss their highly sensitive and private financial information with them over the telephone, but you're allowed to do that on a first name basis. Like, what if you were Leonard John, the famous credit card thief, or like, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the people might not want to deal with somebody who, I think normally if someone's going to work for the government, and not just a public sector governmental organisation, but they're going to be dealing with, I mean, if it was online banking, Lenny, if you found out your online banking and someone was like, hey, it's Joe, give us all your details and I'll discuss your complex financial affairs with you. I mean, what's the kind of word on that?
So it's my understanding that it's due to sort of protect our own safety, because obviously, as you can understand, I mean, you've been perfectly polite, but we do sometimes get customers who are quite hostile and or abusive. And it's sort of just to reassure us that, our own personal safety is protected. Obviously, when you call up to talk to me today, you're calling up voluntarily to give your personal information to someone who, on the accepted circumstances, is a trusted member of the civil service. Now, in my situation, I'm not voluntarily giving up my personal information, and my personal information isn't actually relevant to the call. I'm an employee of Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, and my own personal information isn't actually relevant. So I can obviously, out of sort of, out of mutual respect, I can obviously give you my first name and things like that, but it's out of protecting our own individual identities that aren't sort of directly connected to HMRC. Obviously, we have a life outside of HMRC.
I would argue, sorry to interject, I mean, I respect on the surface, I respect sort of what you're saying, and I understand that you're trying to sort of stick up for rules which are quite handy and aren't made by you. But I appreciate, I'm kind of at the same time, I would say that giving the details isn't voluntary. It's, when you phone your bank, you aren't voluntarily giving your details. I mean, you've got a financial service which you have to attend to. If you don't pay your credit card bill, or you don't service your accounts and keep up with your financial affairs, then you can run into debt. And more relevantly, everyone has to pay income tax because it's the law. And if you don't pay income tax, you go to jail, if you don't pay enough taxes. So I don't think it's a voluntary service. I think it's a mandatory service, which, people have to contract with HMRC staff members. And more to the point, I don't know that, although you might be right that giving your second name could expose you to potential remedial levels of risk as a person, I don't know that people who work for Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs dealing with even voluntarily provided very sensitive information are allowed to do so on a personal basis. If you solicit somebody into providing personal information by advertising yourself and providing a telephone number or an email address, inviting people to phone up and give all of their personal information so that you can sort of delineate information related to products and services you're providing as part of your employment, I don't know that, although whilst what you said might be true, I don't know that you have a right to anonymity, and more pertinently, I don't know that you would have a legal right to anonymity, and I'm not sure about that. But it's just above
my pay grade, all right? So that's something that I don't decide on. Obviously, I'm sort of just, an entry-level employee here. I go off of the sort of the accepted. Yeah,
you do as you're told. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if genuine HMRC staff are told that, and to try and make sure, just to settle my nerves, that the call is 100% genuine. What I'm trying to find out is if, Lenny, your HMRC staff are allowed to take everyone's personal details and discuss all their earnings and their national insurance, their home address, although, as you might argue, on a voluntary basis, if they are I mean, there's only so many ways you can communicate with somebody. You can write a letter to HMRC, and I would expect if a letter, arrived through the post with HMRC's logo at the top, to make sure that it hasn't been printed out by some charlatan's printer just down the road. I would expect that to have a second name on it. If I received a letter, a calculation which had been done, or an investigation, or whatever, really, any correspondence, unless it was, a stock response with the kind of the head of whatever department of the, sort of pixelated signature at the bottom, like you get with some kind of automated fulfillment correspondence. I'd expect every letter, if someone wrote me a letter from HMRC, I would definitely expect there to be a first and second name on there, so that I can say, I've just received a letter from John, and they say, well, we've got 77 Johns that work at Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs throughout 15 different departments. Unfortunately, I've no idea, anyone could have penned that letter, unfortunately.
Yeah, certainly. But I mean, for example, we are recorded. Sorry to interrupt you there. Our calls are recorded, and like I said, that's why I gave you my first name and the office I'm based in. So, and obviously based on the time of the call, you would be able to track it directly to me as an employee.
That's summative. You would do if it was genuine, but if it wasn't genuine, then you wouldn't. So someone's saying, someone could come and knock on your door and say, it's cool, mate, we've got CCTV on the van, we're recording this whole thing, and you can request a copy of that from the IRA. When they, if it's kind of like saying that calls are recorded, whilst again true, it would provide a safety net, but it's a bit paradoxical because it only provides a safety net if you're genuine.
I understand, but I don't really know how to sort of justify it, because
you haven't really got to, man. I'm not trying to grill you. I was more just asking your opinion. I was just asking kind of what you think of it as a do you not think that's a little bit crass? And B, if you could tell me categorically that you are instructed. So that's kind of like where I was kind of going with it. So if you are instructed by your boss, does it say in your contract when you go into your classroom-based training, do they say, I was always told, I worked in offices and telesales for years, and I was always told, whenever you're dealing with financial information, taking personal information, you have to provide your full name. Always, at the outset of the call, provide your full name. We used to get in trouble for not providing our full name because customers want to know exactly who they're speaking to, and I was always educated to the effect that it was a legal requirement. They had to know exactly who they were speaking to because they want to know who's handling their personal data, and they've got an implicit right to know exactly. If you give someone your name and your address and 3 days later you get burgled and you say, well, I've only made one phone call and given my name and address to a stranger, and, again, they might know that you've got lots of money, or, you've got a tax rebate for 70k sat on your doorstep or somewhere in your house, for example. There's lots of things that lots of sort of hypothetical reasons why people might not want to kind of give out the first and second name. But what I was getting at, Lenny, without spending too much more of your time, is if you are categorically instructed not to provide a second name by HMRC. Is that correct or not?
It's down to sort of, if you feel that so the main process.
So the answer is no. You aren't categorically instructed. It's down to personal preference. You're trying to allege.
I believe it's down to personal preference, but there's no we're not going to be disciplined, for example, for not giving our surname away, as long as we make sure that we're clearly identifiable and the call can be tracked. Like I said, I do obviously work for HMRC, and if you were to sort of reference this and you were to request sort of a copy of this recording, for example, they would be able to find it based on the fact that I've given my first name, the time of the call and what the office I'm based in.
Assuming you're genuine, assuming you're genuine, I could have that information, but then I wouldn't need it. It's a paradox, Lenny. And,
yeah, of course, but I don't know how to prove that we are a genuine HMRC organisation.
You might not be able to. It's again, normally providing things like a first and second name, the details of your line manager, the day you started at the employment, like how long you've worked at the employment, what your contractual, what your job title is. Normally, all of that information, you can then verify that you did speak to a person on a certain day, and that might be done through a call recording. But if I request a copy of the call recording, again, in a bit of an extrapolated but totally permissible scenario, which unfortunately I've had in the past, you could have hoaxed calls which were then provided by audio CD. If somebody puts in a request for it. But what I'm getting at is that normally if you provide all those details, that is sufficient. But if you're only going to provide a first name, I think I understand that on a personal level. I mean, you're not sure whether as far as you're aware, it's personal preference, and that's permissible within the contractual obligations of your role. You're not contractually obliged to provide me a surname.
Yes, that's my understanding. Yeah, and it's just due to the fact that obviously we are public servants, but our own identities are our own at the end of the day.
Yeah, I understand why you might not want to, but it's a bit like kind of there's lots of careers where unfortunately you just don't have the right to unlimited. You don't have to do the job, but if you want to do the job, you have to be able to identify who you are. And that means providing your full name, so that if somebody wanted to go to the police or to the fraud services for any reason, they could take out a background check. They can check whether this person's wanted, they've got a warrant out for their arrest, and they can also check private journalistic files and Google to see if this person has got a history of being a convicted criminal, because these things do happen, and sometimes if your name if you are a famous bank robber, then people might not want to speak to you working for the bank. Even if you've served your time in prison and you've come out of prison, there's lots of people who are identifiable by their second name, and people might not want to do business with them or provide them their personal details on that basis. And also, it's just a case of accountability. If you have a problem with somebody or you want to reference the inquiry, phoning back again and trying to ask for Joe, Joe could. Not only are you only providing a first name, but unfortunately using an abbreviation, which is no discrimination against you. I'm not suggesting or implying that you're a criminal. I'm just saying that it's my perception that what you did is abbreviate your name. So I don't know. I can't think of anything else that it could be an abbreviation of other than Leonard. Well, I probably could.
Well, it is. I mean,
but it doesn't say. It doesn't say what your first name is. So actually, I've only got, it only has that. And when I've asked to, when I've been put through to the department that's going to deal with online complaints, you've gone by a nickname, which you tried to refuse to provide me. And then it turns out that the recorded message telephone automating dialing system that says I'm going to be put through to somebody that can deal with my personal online tax account specifically, you've said that you're not able to do that. You just deal with PAYE. And then you've said that your normal manager, Terence, happens to be also coincidentally away on holiday, and nobody's given you a replacement. Nobody's told you who's going to be providing you with line manager support in the interim while he's away. And also, you're pretty quick to let me know that if nobody's around to speak to me, I'll get a call back, or that probably they're not going to be allowed to speak to me. So those kind of...
Not that they're probably not going to be allowed.
Five things. Like you didn't. You kind of. I didn't
want to sort of promise you a call back and then come back and say, sorry, I didn't want to promise you that I was going to get you a manager and then come back and have to disappoint you. I was trying to be as upfront and honest with you as possible. So I'm sorry if you took that the wrong way. I was honestly just trying to sort of manage your expectations correctly.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of those five things. The fact that you're using a nickname and you won't give a second name, and then you're in the wrong department anyway. The telephone management system has put me through to someone that can manage my online tax account. And whilst there is a technical support team, like I said, this isn't a technical support issue. I've already got my login details. They're working perfectly well, but my account particulars are wrong, and that's the problem. But you said you've got some scope. You can deal with login issues for online personal tax accounts, yeah.
So with the online personal tax accounts, like I said, the limited scope I have is resetting emails and passwords. That's all I can do. I don't sort of deal with anything any further than that, because like I said, there's a specialist team who deal with it, and sort of we've been instructed not to get involved when it's another team's remit. So
you could probably do that. I mean, like if somebody just had my particulars, they could probably just do that. If a fraudster had infiltrated the software on my Android operating system, they could probably just hit password reset, delete the email. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that anybody could do that, and maybe that's why I need to speak to technical support. But it's kind of unusual that you've got that functionality for online support, but nothing else. It's kind of like I've been put through to arguably, you would assume the right person. You're saying that maybe I've been put through to the wrong person, but I asked to speak to a personal tax account online support, but actually all this means is login assistance. And I mean, I guess that's probably 80% of the inquiry, and it is a login inquiry, but the login inquiry is that I'm asking for verified information, which to my knowledge, doesn't make up the makeup of my account. So now I've cleared security, can you tell me what identification documents I've got on my account? So I should have a UK driver's license. That's my not a foreign one.
So that's when I say outside of my remit, I can sort of see the financial aspects. I can sort of see your pay and tax details in with regards to your employments and things like that. The online service aspect is not sort of a system I have access to. That, like I said, the limited scope I have is resetting a password and an email, and then alternative to that, anything further to that would and is dealt with by the technical team.
Okay. Look, we've been on the phone for almost an hour now, dude, and I don't want to waste too much more of your time or mine with a fruitless conversation which isn't going to go anywhere. So what I'd like to do is phone back a number which I've lost in a tab somewhere. There you go. 0300 3300. 0300 200 3300. I believe I've phoned them before back in London.
It's 3600 at the end, not 3300.
So the income tax helpline is 3300.
Yeah. So what you're looking to get to is the the online service help desk. So you come through to the income tax helpline, which is sort of my department. But normally what happens is it's people, like I said previously on the call, people who have actual sort of issues with their tax code or they're being taxed incorrectly or something like that. That's sort of what I deal with. When it goes to the sort of the technical side of things, it's that number that I gave you there, ending in 3600.
So everyone who phones income tax or PAYE inquiry and says, yes, I'd like help with my online personal tax account, is then told to phone back. I mean, if you need help signing in, there's a 3600. Then technical support. So what was the number that you told me to search a minute ago? Was that the same or was that different?
So the number for the technical support is the one that ends in 3600. So it's 0300 200 3600.
So that's user ID, resetting your password, which said you can do, or changing how you get your access codes. Online services help desk. So I don't know. Online services help desk and technical support with Hmrc online services is the same, right?
Sorry, would you be able to repeat that? Sorry,
technical support. So I'm on the technical support page, and it's given the same. It's given the same number, but it's calling it Relay UK. So it says at the very bottom of your technical support page, it says you can also use Relay UK if you can't hear or speak on the phone. I see. Dial 1-800 and then okay, fine. So it's given the technical support number as the same number for help signing in. Anyway, I'll phone this 200 3600 and see how I get on there. But well, I mean, I don't know if you could put me through to your manager, that'd be useful.
Yeah, well, if you'd be happy to hold for a couple of minutes, I'll just see if I can get through to someone.
Yeah, go for it, bud. Go for it. It'd be really good if I could just speak to somebody just to kind of verify your credentials as you've used a nickname and haven't given a second name. And
okay, yeah, certainly. Yeah, I'll be a couple minutes. All right, I shouldn't be more than about 3 or so minutes.
Okay, wicked. All right, thank you, bud. I look forward to hearing that.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, thank you very much for holding. So apologies. I managed to speak to two of the deputies. They're both tied up at the moment. So the one I spoke to,
Just like you said, they were going to be.
Benjamin, he said to if this is something that you'd be willing to do, I can sort of arrange a call back with him. And what he advised was I would take a password from you today, which would sort of be used to legitimize the call when they call you back to sort of authenticate.
Never done that before in my entire life. That's very atypical. Explain that to me in a bit more detail.
So basically how it works, because
they give
the
you
number,
a code word,
as you can based on the number that you've called through to today, this is a genuine Hmrc number. So when we do outbound calls, because of potential bogus calls and things like that, what we do is we would take a password, anything that you wanted to say, say for example, a pineapple, for example, then you would give that password to me, I'd give it to my manager, and then when they call you back, they give you back that password to sort of authenticate that it is a genuine Hmrc call. And
I have to say,
a bogus call trying to sort of
I've bounced around some contact centres, like as a naive 20-something. I've never ever come across anybody doing that before. And again, as much as you might think it adds an air of legitimacy to the call, it's very paradoxical because, of course, somebody selling potatoes out the back of a van could also do that, and it wouldn't make them genuine. But I
can sort of only comment on the working practices. I can't really sort of change them, unfortunately. Hopefully, maybe one day. But at the moment, I'm sort of just, I'm just a low-level employee, so I can sort of only advise what our working practices are, and I can tell you how we sort of operate. But I can't sort of comment on whether your position on them or anything, obviously.
So, just I tell you what, I'm happy. I'm happy enough without giving a code word, which anybody could just repeat back to me verbatim. I'm happy enough to go ahead. If you could just tell Benjamin to give us a shout on this number, then that'd be really useful.
Okay. I just want to confirm the number here I've got is ending in 3026. Is that the number you'd like a call back from?
07576. Got that bit? Can you see the first?
Would you be able to repeat yourself? Sorry, I think it cut out a tiny bit.
I don't think it did, but so can you just read out the full number you've got for us? But is that all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So I've got 0757 671 3026.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Thank you. Okay. I'll look forward to hearing back from Benjamin, and I'll phone the. So what I'll do is I'll set up the callback. Any idea what time he's going to be free? Did he give you a time? He's busy until what time?
I'll be able to check now. If you bear with me 2 seconds, I just basically have to sort of fill up a referral and then send it off to him.
It's useful because I've got a few phone calls to make, and one of the things that these guys always do is they phone up if they're going to put a phone call back in, because by virtue of outbound phone intercepting being a little bit more technically advanced and slightly less plausible, whereas inbound calls from a bogus caller will the bread and butter of action fraud. What they'll normally do is, because the Android handset is hacked and compromised, they can see literally everything I'm doing the whole time. So they'll wait until I'm on a telephone call, and then they'll put the call back in. So it will display on my call log, and they won't have to make an inbound call. So yeah, if you could get a time, that'd be really useful for me. And don't worry about pineapples or anything like that.
Sorry if that confused you. It was literally just to sort of try and provide a bit of context.
That's all right.
Okay, just bear with me a couple of minutes. I'll get that all sorted.
Thanks, Leonard. You going to place the call on hold, or have you forgotten to?
No, I'm still here. I'm just filling it out real quick.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine. Thanks. So how long have you worked at Hmrc, if you don't mind me asking?
Sorry, say that again, please.
How long have you filled the role, mate? Your contractual employment?
My role or his role?
I don't expect you're making his lunch for him. No, your job, your contract. When did you start working for Hmrc?
I started working on the 31st of August this year.
Right, you are, mate. Thank you. And what's Benjamin's job title? This guy that's going to be phoning me up?
I believe it's just team leader, but I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Okay. Working title, that would do, yeah.
I assume it's team leader of personal ops or something like that.
Okay.
Do you have a preferred time? Would it be sort of morning or afternoon that you prefer to have a call back?
If you could let me know when he's free, as soon as he's free, really, mate, and I'll make myself probably actually not between. Tell you what, I'm busy.
Yeah,
I'm going to be busy between between 12 and 2 today.
Between 12 and 3, did you say? Sorry.
2 p.m. Between 12 and 2 p.m. I'm going to be busy.
Okay. Sorry, your line is sort of cutting out quite drastically, so I'm only catching sort of certain bits of the sentence, but I'm trying to piece it together.
Okay. Do you want to pop the call on hold while you're doing this, mate?
I can do if you'd like.
Yeah, that's fine, man. That's fine. Hey, bud. How's it going?
Hello, Mr. McClure, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going, man?
Yeah, thank you very much for holding. I appreciate your patience there. Okay, so I've sent off a referral for a callback to the deputy manager, yeah, so I've basically put in the details of everything that we've spoken about today. You should receive a callback within 48 hours. Okay.
Well, it's not really okay, mate. No. So what we were going to arrange was that you were going to find out when he was free to speak on the phone for 5 minutes, and then tell me what time he was going to phone me so that I could be available.
Yeah,
kind
so
of like the opposite of phoning back at any point in the next 48 hours, pretty much, as we discussed.
Yeah, well, that's why I requested sort of your preferred times. But yeah, so the sort of the turnaround.
Well, as I said, any time. I mean, by any time except for between 12 and 2. I didn't mean any time within 48 hours. Yeah, that's kind of about as useful as a chocolate fire guard for me, mate. Because, like I said, quite a lot of the time, assuming the call's genuine, you know, but a lot of the time what fraudsters will do is that they're very reluctant to make inbound calls because they're a little bit easier to report. And funnily enough, after quite succinctly and concisely understanding that I was trying to request a time for the callback, you've come back on the phone and said it's going to be a vague time. So is there any way, you could phone him up and ask, could you phone him up and please say, Mr. McLeod would like to speak to you about a couple of issues regarding me remaining anonymous and him being put through to somebody who couldn't help him after the call management system led him to believe he was going to be speaking to somebody that could help him. He'd like a call back, but he'd like to do it as soon as possible when you're available. Could you just phone him and ask him to do that? Is that all right? I suppose you can't phone him if he's too busy.
Yeah,
how are you doing?
Yeah, so like I said, he will call you back as soon as possible. But the expected turnaround, it can take up to 48 hours. But he will call you back as soon as he possibly can.
Do you have a function to set callback time? Do you have a function to set a callback time with your manager at Hmrc?
Well, it's not something that I would be able to sort of agree on his behalf.
So no, you don't have a function. He hasn't got a calendar, or you can't phone him and ask him. Could you phone him? Have you phoned him already today?
I've messaged him. I've spoken to him sort of by text message or sort of the web chat function.
Yeah, fine.
We have on our
so can you send him a web chat and ask him what time he's free to make a phone call? Or
okay, all right. Bear with me a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm just going to pop you on another quick hold whilst I do that.
Okay, thank you, mate. Cheers.
Hello, Ms. McCloud, can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much for holding once more. Yeah, so unfortunately he wasn't able to commit to an exact time, but he did advise that he'll endeavour to give you a call back as soon as possible.
Okay, I appreciate your efforts there, mate. So your other team leader that's gone away, Terence, would they normally provide cover when he goes on holiday?
Yeah, so that's the purpose of the manager that I've spoken to now. He's the deputy acting interim manager. But the way in which sort of the turnarounds when it's an escalation to a team leader is that obviously because of the nature of the work that they do, they're not always available to take any escalations because they could be dealing with other things or dealing with other escalations.
Appreciate they might not be available.
That's why we
so
sort of set up.
What I was asking was if you were told when Terence was going to be away, who your acting line manager was going to be. Did they provide cover when Terence went on holiday?
Yes, they did. Like I said earlier in the call, sort of I work part-time. So obviously when this was established, I wasn't in on the day. So, obviously when I'm speaking to you today, and this is the first instance in today's shift that someone wanted to speak to a manager, it was at that point that I sort of investigated that further. Generally, I try and solve everyone's queries as much as I can.
Okay.
I try and avoid any escalations because I like to try and think that I can help.
So you reckon if you were in the office on the first day that he wasn't there, everyone would have been received a memo to say.
Sorry.
So if you were.
Sorry, would you be able to repeat yourself?
Yeah, of course. So if you're suggesting that if you were working on the day that it was his first day of absence, you would at that point have received a memo to say you're going to be working without a team leader.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, there's always sort of so there are deputies in place, deputy managers to sort of replace my team leader.
But you didn't know who that was. And when I asked you who your manager was, you just said, well, my manager's away, and I don't know who's acting on his behalf.
Yeah, so that's when I popped you on hold the first time. That's when I went to investigate who it was who was going to be sort of acting in interim.
But what I'm asking is, you weren't told. I mean, has your manager ever been on holiday before?
Yeah, he certainly has.
And did you get informed of the cover? Did you get told who was going to be acting as your manager while they were away when he went away last time? Did they send you an email to let you know when you're working from home?
Yeah, they do obviously sort of inform us of that and sort of who's acting in interim.
So you reckon if they sent you an email on Friday, maybe you just haven't read your emails between Friday and today?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I took the call from you today at 9 a.m. So I was obviously talking to people prior. Like I said, I try and endeavour to resolve everyone's queries on the phone. I'd prefer not to sort of escalate calls because it's obviously not the best way to sort of conduct service anyway. I'd like to think that I can help everyone. So obviously in that regard, when someone obviously is insisting on speaking to a manager or something, at that point, that's when I'll sort of investigate all of that. Generally, obviously, my manager is normally in, but it's just sort of coincidence that today he's not in.
So how did you find out that Benjamin was going to be acting in place of Terence?
Well, it was when you were asking for a call back. That's when I was sort of investigating that. And that's
so what did you do? Did you get the email? Did you get the memo that they sent you to say that he was on holiday, or you already knew he was on holiday straight away, but you didn't know who was acting on his behalf? Yes, yeah. So they didn't put those two bits of information in the same email. They wouldn't have said Terence is going away and Benjamin's acting on his behalf if you need anything. But you knew Terence was away, but you didn't know who was covering for him.
I did know who was covering from him if I sort of investigated it. Like I said, I didn't.
And what did that investigation involve? Was that reading your emails, or you just phoned through to a kind of central hub and asked somebody? I mean,
so we use Microsoft Teams, so we obviously have sort of decentralized teams that we operate through. So I spoke to firstly some of my colleagues, and then was advised to speak to.
So they didn't put those two bits of information into one email for you, like Terence is going away, and Benjamin's going to be covering for you, because you knew straight away that he wasn't in, but you didn't know who else to speak to.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, that's something that I guess you could take up with the manager when he calls you back. Like I said, it's not something that I sort of have. I don't really need to. But I mean, the only person who knows the answer to that question is you. He's not going to know, whether you read your emails. But for me, again, just to try and sort of root out and be diligent against cyber fraud, it's the kind of thing, people make sort of small continuity errors sometimes can be indicative of a wider problem. And like I said, there's already kind of 5 things which maybe would make me scratch my head a little bit. Like I said, those kind of are inclusive of me having, like I said, selected the option on the automated dialer, you using a nickname rather than your normal name, not providing a surname, and then it's not a kind of I'm not trying to interrogate you, man. And I really appreciate you telling me your work start date and your official contracted employment. Remind me of that again. You said you were. What's your official job title? Administrative officer.
Administrative officer. So, like that again, as an officer of a state, that's a specific title. So, if you're working for the public sector as an officer, normally you would have to identify yourself in that respect. Just one quick question before we go. Do you ever have to make agreements? So, do people make agreements with you, like financial agreements over the phone? Do they not phone up and say, I'm going to pay my £1,000 tax bill, I'll give you £200 at the end of the month or whatever? Do you have to make negotiations and agreements with people?
It's not something that my remit, my scope deals with, no.
So you just disseminate information. You just
agreements, but it's not myself.
You just disseminate private information to people about their personal tax accounts.
Sorry, what do you mean?
You just provide private information to people. So if they say, how much have I paid this year on the books, then you'll be able to tell them, and you'll be able to give them end of year figures and stuff like that.
As long as they've gone through security verification and they were sort of legitimate callers, then yes, absolutely, we could discuss anything we can discuss financial information with legitimate callers, yeah, absolutely.
But you're not making financial agreements. Nobody can make an agreement for communications to be sent or received by a certain date, or for payments to be sent or received by certain dates or timeframes. No, well, again, like I said, that's not something my department specifically deals with. I deal with sort of pay-as-you-earn income tax, so it might be that another department deals with sort of financial arrangements and agreements, but it's not something that I personally deal with. I just, I generally help people out with their taxes based on their employments and things like that. What about processing tax rebates? Do you do that there?
We can deal with tax rebates if they, depending on the circumstances, yeah.
So if you're going to say to somebody, I've processed, you're owed £25 and I've processed that, and we're going to send that to you within 4 to 6 weeks, that isn't. Nobody can. I mean, if somebody doesn't receive it and they say, I spoke to Terry, or Lenny, sorry. And I'm just sort of querying. Sorry, your line sort of keeps cutting out, so I sort of hear half the sentence. So I heard you say if someone calls up and hasn't received a check, but I didn't hear the remaining bit of what you were saying. It's kind of, I don't think it was a relevant line of inquiry, mate. I was just sort of asking if maybe processing a tax rebate for somebody might deem to be a financial contract, because if you're agreeing that a payment's going to be issued to somebody, and then you're processing the issuing of that payment, then you would need to provide a first and second name for obvious reasons. If Doris phones up in 6 months' time and says, I spoke to Joe at Hmrc and he said I was going to get a tax rebate, and it's never arrived, and they say, well, there's no record. They say, well, I don't know about Joe, which could be Joseph, Joanna, John. It's kind of so yeah. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, that's true of why I gave you first. I mean, I did tell you my full name, sort of my full first name. If you're interested, it is Leonard. I told you I'm based in Cardiff, obviously based on the date and time of the call. So in that instance, they would be able to track down the call and track it down to the operator. If
Like
it
I
was
said, well, I mean,
genuine, if it was genuine, they would, bud. But if I said I spoke to Lenny and they said, "What's that short for?" and I said, "I don't know," and they'd say, "Well, you can't. Sorry, mate, it's nothing we can do." Probably what would happen if I spoke to. That's the problem with using nicknames, which is what you provided, rather than a full first name or a full first and second name. Which, like I said, when I worked in that kind of industry, I was. Yeah, that was very firmly stipulated that we provide a first and second name. When I was dealing with financial information, even if that was just processing payments, I always had to have that. And certainly if I was dealing with, if I was taking large amounts of sensitive data from somebody and divulging information related to their finances, I would do that. But I was just, that's kind of the problem with that, is that, if you say, I spoke to Joe, they say, "What's that short for?" and you say, "I don't know." And they say, "Have you got a second name?" And I say, "No." And they say, "Well, I'm sorry, that could be anybody. I mean, I don't know who that is." And although it might be obvious that Lenny's short for Leonard, if I don't know that for sure, someone doesn't confirm that to me, then I can't, even then, on a first name basis, I don't know how many, Leonards work in the call centre. I don't know. And neither does anybody else.
Yeah, there's one in Cardiff, and it's me.
Yeah, well, that's what they all say, but, with the greatest respect, I'm not being accusatory, but what a telephone fraudster, if they are patching into an outbound phone call, will always tell you is that they'll only give you their first name, and that they will assure you that they're the only Andrew in the call centre, or the only Michael in the call centre, and that's why they're only giving you their first name. The other thing about Lenny is that it's unfortunately got the ends in it. It could be, weirdly, it could be Lemmy, which is, as in L-E, Lima Echo Mike Yankee, which could be short for Lemur, or any other number of names, which, again, if I said that's short for something, if I didn't ask you how it was spelt and what it was short for, then likely the first things that people would say, if I ever did try and verify the call, they would say, "What's that short for?" and I'd say, "I don't know." And they'd say, "Well, how's it spelt?" and I'd say, "I don't know." If I hadn't have asked you those questions, then there's pretty much no way. There's not no way, but
what I would suggest is just sort of note down the date and time of the call as well. Like I said, you can reference that you called to the Cardiff contact centre. If you wanted to sort of legitimize the call, you can certainly call back, and they would be able to sort of verify based on the record of this call coming through today. They would be able to, depending on who you spoke to, in the next call, they would be able to sort of authenticate that you did speak to Lenny, who's based in Cardiff, who works for PAYE. But if you sort of any further in this call, I can't sort of legitimize myself any further than based on what I've already done.
Yeah, I'm not really expecting to, mate. I was just sort of commenting that I was just going to ask if you make financial contracts, because I'm pretty sure in the past I might have phoned up Hmrc, and when I've got an overdue tax amount or a late self-assessment, which they've sometimes sent me for some reason, when I've always been on PAYE, but yeah, when that's what I've received, and I've had to make arrangements with them. I've phoned up and said, "Please, could you give me 2 weeks grace," or stuff like that, and they've logged those arrangements. And if you're making financial agreements with people over the phone, I mean, it's my understanding you should provide your full details to deal with personal tax accounts. I mean, people can change things. I mean, any change that's going to be made, anything that you're going to do, people say, they could say anything. Like they could say that they're moving to another nation, they're emigrating, or they'd like to register as self-employed, or they'd like to, there's any number of actions people could take relative to a personal tax account, which you could then update on the system. And if the person is unable to reference who they spoke to when that happened, that might have, indicative repercussions in business. Somebody might make a change on their Hmrc account, and then if that change does or doesn't happen, that could then financially damage them, and that's why, you need to have that contractual liability, that the information that you're giving, as you said, is first and foremost recorded, so that the nature of the contract and the actions can be later verified, but also so that they can verify who they've spoken to, because it's very difficult if you say, if Doris phones up and says, "I spoke to somebody on X date, and they said they were going to just do this for me, and they didn't do whatever it was," then nobody can find out if that person's done their job properly, and indeed if they're genuine. but we've been on the phone for a really long time.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand your reasonings. Like, you know, like I said, I can only sort of go for the working practices that I've been informed of how to operate. Okay.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll phone back the technical support line, which probably is going to alleviate you of most suspicion, because people are just going to say, well, he's just phoned the wrong number, and these guys don't deal with technical support. But it did say in the call management system that you were going to be able to deal with my online personal tax account, and I would rather. Yeah, yes.
I'll certainly feed that back anyway, because that's, you know, if there are multiple calls coming through to my department with regards to technical support, like I said, it's not something that I personally can deal with, so it's incorrect that that's happening. So I'll feed that back no matter the outcome of the call today anyway. Like I said, I've sent through a referral to the deputy manager to give you a call back. That call back will be conducted within the next 48 hours. Like I said, they'll call you back as early as possible, or as soon as possible rather. But I can't sort of specify a time, because, well, it's not sort of me who's going to be making the call back. It'll be a manager.
And they don't have a calendar, or there isn't any way you can book a time. There's no way.
There's no way I can. No, to get a concrete time, unfortunately not. No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll really look forward to speaking to Benjamin. Maybe I'll query those issues with him, and I will phone the other number and hopefully get some joy with that. But have a really good shift today, mate, and thanks so much for taking the time to speak to me on the phone this morning.
No worries at all. Have a lovely day.
Okay.
Thank you now.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.